Once upon a time in a kingdom not too far away, there lived a little girl who was known throughout the land for her kind heart and her sweet disposition. Her name was Miss Muffet. Now, Miss Muffet loved nothing more than spending her days in the great outdoors, exploring the meadows, climbing trees, and making friends with all of the woodland creatures. One sunny afternoon, Miss Muffet decided to venture into the Whispering Woods, a place filled with tall, ancient trees that rustled secrets to those who listened closely. As she skipped along a forest path, she heard a tiny voice calling out for help. Startled, Miss Muffet looked around to see where the voice had come from. And then she saw it, a little spider dangling from a leafless tree branch, its thin legs unable to hold up its plump body. Without hesitation, Miss Muffet rushed over to help the spider. "Don't worry, little spider," she said gently. "I'll help you get down from there." With a few well-placed rocks, she built a ramp leading up to the branch. Then, taking her time so as not to startle the creature, she approached the spider and offered it a twig to climb onto. The spider, relieved to be saved, scuttled down the ramp and onto the ground, where Miss Muffet scooped it up and cradled it in her hands. "Thank you, Miss Muffet," the spider said. "You have such a kind heart. How can I ever repay you?" Miss Muffet smiled. "There's no need to repay me, little spider. I was happy to help you." But the spider insisted. "I insist on repaying your kindness. Tell me, what is your greatest wish?" Miss Muffet thought for a moment. "Oh," she said finally, "I would love to have a picnic lunch with you in the meadow. You could tell me all about life in the Whispering Woods." The spider's eyes twinkled. "A picnic? How splendid! I know just the spot." And with that, the spider scurried away to prepare for their afternoon together. Miss Muffet watched it go and couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. She had a feeling that this picnic was going to be like no other. A few minutes later, the spider returned and beckoned for Miss Muffet to follow it. Curious, she agreed and soon found herself in a clearing she had never seen before. It was the perfect spot for a picnic, with a checkered cloth spread out on a bed of soft grass beneath the shade of a large oak tree. A basket sat in the center of it all, overflowing with delicious food. There were crusty loaves of bread, bowls of fresh fruit, and even a bottle of sparkling cider. Before Miss Muffet could say a word, the spider disappeared into the basket, reappearing moments later with a plate piled high with cucumber sandwiches. "Oh, my dear Miss Muffet," the spider said, its voice dripping with fox sweetness, "please enjoy these humble offerings." Miss Muffet, taken aback by the spider's sudden transformation, stammered, But I thought you were going to have a picnic with me." The spider let out a shrill laugh. "Of course I am, my dear, but I simply must entertain first. After all, it is I who has gone to all the trouble." Miss Muffet felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. This spider was not the friendly creature she had rescued earlier. Something had changed it, and she couldn't shake off the feeling that she was in grave danger. As if to confirm her fears, the spider suddenly lunged at her, its sharp fangs bared. Miss Muffet screamed and ran as fast as she could, stumbling through the underbrush with the spider close behind her. She could hear its heavy breathing and feel its hot, fetid breath on her neck. Just when she thought she might be caught, she burst out of the trees and into the open field. There, in the distance, she saw the comforting sight of her home. With a final burst of speed, she reached the safety of her front door and slammed it shut behind her. Panting and terrified, Miss Muffet recounted the horrifying experience to her family and friends. They listened with wide eyes as she described the spider as sudden change of heart and its vicious attack. But as the shock wore off, they began to question Miss Muffet's story. Are you sure you didn't imagine it all, dear? Her mother asked gently. I remember you seemed rather frightened when you came home, but you wouldn't tell us why. Miss Muffet shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I promise it's true. I saw its fangs, Mama, and I could feel its hot breath on my neck. If you don't believe me, just ask the townspeople. They saw the scratches left by its fangs on my arms and legs. The townspeople, however, had their own doubts. A man-eating spider in our midst, one exclaimed, shaking his head. Preposterous. There are no such things here. Another added, perhaps you were simply attacked by a wild animal, child. There are foxes and wolves in the woods, you know. Miss Muffet, confused and upset by their disbelief, retreated to her room, wondering if she had truly imagined the terrifying ordeal. Days turned into weeks, and Miss Muffet tried her best to put the incident behind her. She ventured back into the Whispering Woods, hoping to find the spider and warn others about its vicious nature. But the spider was nowhere to be found. As the seasons changed and the leaves turned golden brown, a strange unease settled over the town. People began to disappear, first an elderly woman gathering herbs in the woods, then a young boy who had wandered off while playing. Each disappearance only fueled the townspeople's fear and suspicion, and soon they were blaming each other for the misfortunes. Meanwhile, Miss Muffet continued her search for the spider, determined to bring an end to the mystery. One evening, as she sat by her window, she noticed something peculiar. A spider, almost identical to the one she had encountered before, was crawling along the windowsill. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, she flung open the window and reached for the spider, but it managed to escape. Undeterred, Miss Muffet followed the spider outside. It led her deep into the woods, weaving in and out of the trees until they came to a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood an enormous oak tree, its branches gnarled and twisted like the limbs of some monstrous beast. As Miss Muffet stared up at the tree in bewilderment, the spider suddenly dropped down from a branch and landed on her shoulder. Well, Miss Muffet, it said, its voice now deep and menacing. We meet again. Miss Muffet, summoning all her courage, retorted, You're the reason everyone's been disappearing, aren't you? Why are you doing this? The spider let out a cruel laugh. Why? Because I'm tired of being hunted and feared. I've lived in the Whispering Woods for centuries, watching humans encroach upon my home. So I decided to fight back. Those who enter my domain and refuse to respect me become my prisoners. And you, Miss Muffet, are no exception. With that, the spider wrapped its long, hairy legs around Miss Muffet's waist and lifted her off her feet. She struggled to free herself, but the spider was too strong. It carried her towards the oak tree and began to climb. At the top of the tree, the spider disappeared into a hole in the trunk. Miss Muffet, bruised and battered, stumbled out of the hole and collapsed to the ground. Weak and helpless, she looked up at the dark opening and knew that this was the end. Just then, a faint glow began to emanate from the hole. It grew brighter and brighter until suddenly the entire tree was bathed in a brilliant light. When Miss Muffet could see again, she found herself in a beautiful meadow bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. And standing before her was the friendliest spider she had ever met. What happened? She asked in a weak voice. Where am I? The spider smiled. You're in Spider Haven, a place where spiders of all kinds come to rest and recuperate. I brought you here because you showed kindness and compassion towards spiders. Even when they aren't very nice to you, you still show them kindness. That's the quality we look for in new members of our haven. Miss Muffet, touched by the spider's unexpected gesture, realized that she wasn't in danger anymore. She had found a place where she was accepted for who she was. From that day on, Miss Muffet lived in Spider Haven, where she learned all about the different types of spiders and how to care for them. The other spiders, once shy and reserved, warmed up to her quickly, appreciating her gentle nature and willingness to listen to their stories. Together, they spent their days tending to the gardens of Spider Haven, collecting pollen and nectar from the flowers, and when the sun went down, they gathered around each other, sharing tales and laughter. Miss Muffet had finally found a place where she truly belonged.